Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've gotten a couple questions about this from some readers asking me and pointing me to a podcast interview, World Word Balloon, which is a channel and that you should check out. It is on YouTube and it's a good little channel and it has a lot of good interviews. It gets good insight. You get they have the ability to get people on their show doing interviews and talking to them without having them ask if they're part of a club or not, which people seem to want to ask me that. I don't know. That would be, well, whatever. I would like for some of the big YouTubers out there to insult me more so that I will stop getting that question. If you could please help a brother out, it would be great. Anyway, this is a good interview. Like I said, Word Balloon, go check it out. But on this show is Alex Ross, and a bunch of people pointed me to this interview with Alex Ross. It's a very long interview. It's a good one. Talks about kind of his concepts, how he works, things he's done, stuff he's proud of, a lot of really great content. But then a somewhat, I think, inadvertently, it slips into a discussion on payment. And in specifically, Alex Ross does a good job of kind of answering two questions in one. One question a lot of people have is, why doesn't Alex Ross do more work for DC? And then two, how does this payment stuff works? A lot of people either on social media or on YouTube or other podcasts and other things talk about royalties and getting royalties, and it seems like a weird system at times. It seems like an inconsistent system at times, and it kind of goes into I don't know. It's like you get both the illusion that working in comics means you're getting tons of royalty checks and everything is going awesome. And then simultaneously you get the impression that these royalty checks seem somewhat arbitrary and that the companies have done some pretty nasty things over the years. I mean, there's the whole video at some point to do on Steve Gerber and just lots and lots of different people who've had different stories where this stuff's concerned. But let's listen to what Alex Ross did. Again, this is from the Word Balloon podcast. It's a good one. Go check it out. But here's the clip in question, about 2 minutes long for you to listen to.
Because
but the thing is, they were borrowing my Superman costume, but it was only to get him in as his version of Superman. And then the truth of the matter was, they must not have been able or willing to do a deal based upon the production he was part of with, Bryan Singer, presumably that they didn't want to have to either pay out to them. So instead, I got screwed. They didn't pay me or Mark anything.
Well, that's
for
shitty.
Using our yeah.
That's very shitty. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any money for the Wonder Woman movie using my armor, or hell, I designed Batwoman, for heaven's sakes, and she's got a whole damn show. But these are some of the issues that I have with not working with Warner Brothers anymore. Is that they can recycle my content, and they used to pay. And I'm not kidding. They paid like a year ago for different things that were kind of discretionary bonuses, is how they call it, where they give you a gift of money so that you're not out there effectively complaining like I'm doing right now, saying, "Oh, I got taken advantage of." I mean, basically, in a buildup of a lot of projects over time, particularly peaking last year with the Crisis thing, there was a lot of stuff of mine that was getting in there physically. And of course, the interpretation that Mark and I did of the broken Batman, we now saw portrayed by Kevin Conroy. And
right.
Every fan knows what it's coming from.
Sure.
But we got no love from the corporation. And I have to feel it probably revolves around the new ownership is probably cut the budget of any kind of discretionary money given. So it's a really rotten thing. I can't root for what they do with this stuff. And the most I can do for myself is decide whether or not I'm going to watch it.
Okay, so what Alex Ross was talking there, and it's tough to listen. You can really hear the anger in his voice, and what he's talking to is kind of one of the, I don't want to say the dreams or the fallacies or things that's been said a lot in comics, is that, hey, the big money is you design these things and then your character shows up on the big screen. We've heard a lot of different comic creators talk about hoping that their character, their personal creation, will show up in the movies and then they'll get a big check. And kind of what you're hearing from Alex Ross is the truth of the matter in the industry, which is you often don't get a big check. In fact, many times you don't get a check at all. And that, Warner Brothers at least has used this concept of discretionary bonuses. And it is the discretionary bonuses, having talked to many different people within comics, definitely live up to the word discretionary, meaning they don't seem like they're part of any kind of process. They don't seem like they are really fixed or stable or reliable, I think, are all nice words we'd like to use when we think about money. And they seem very arbitrary, and oftentimes they feel a lot more like hush money. You heard Alex Ross say, they basically give you the gift of money so you're not out there complaining like he is right now. And then he's commenting that he feels like he's taken advantage of. So, here this is a bit of a dodgy situation, because on one hand, there's a bunch of comic creators going to hate what I'm about to say. But I don't say it out of love. I don't say it out of tough to be you. I'm not saying it for that reason. But whenever you enter into a business relationship or a contract or a company, and the rules for how you get paid are, let's just say, fluid, that they're not very well spelled out, that you don't have an ironclad contract, that you do have things like discretionary bonuses or terms that say things like you could earn up to, and things like that, you should have a healthy degree of skepticism, because anytime things are worded that way, the company is leaving the door open to screwing you. And when I say screwing you, again, that's also in the eye of the beholder. There are comic creators who are just thrilled to get work published for Marvel. And in many cases, the comic companies have taken advantage of that by doing things where they will say, hey, you get to see your name in print. Isn't that exciting? No, we're not going to pay you, but your name is in print. And I think that there's horror stories at Marvel, there's horror stories at DC, there's horror stories for all these big companies where creators have come in and they have assumed that they're going to be taken care of, or that quote unquote companies will do the right thing. I hate that term. I hate the term do the right thing, because do the right thing means really nothing. It's not contractually enforceable. It doesn't mean anything from any kind of legal standpoint. And you're just kind of hoping and trusting that the person who is responsible for giving you money is going to see things the same way as you, that you guys are going to be aligned. And even if you're both good people, wonderful people, people have differences of opinion. And the comic industry is not like just got cash like flowing out of it. It times, and this has happened a lot with the smaller companies where contracts are extremely loose. They're built on a handshake and a promise. And then the small publisher, gets tight on money. They can't pay for things, or maybe they overcommitted and they need to pay off bills or whatever else. And so they don't pay what they shook hands on. And the person who's not getting the money is stiffed, and they're right. They are being stiffed. Bear in mind, none of what I'm saying is an excuse for why somebody shouldn't pay you. You should always get paid. But you should assume that if it's not written down really clearly in black and white, you're going to get screwed at some point. Even if you work with the most wonderful, honest, amazing people in the world, it's going to happen sooner or later. And it's not always this big evil thing. It's not like the person on the other end who's in paying you is this horrible bastard who's trying to just make you starve. It's just that their priorities might shift away from paying you into maybe paying somebody else who's complaining more, maybe keeping the doors open. Maybe they have a belief that if they pay off these bills and do this thing, that they'll get a lot more money, and then the company will be stable and they'll be able to pay you everything you owe. It's why you write things down. And there's plenty of cases, and I've worked for people who view promises about payment as hopes, not promises. And in many cases, they may even sign paperwork with you. You may have a contract that's saying you're supposed to get paid, but the company will turn around and say, look, sue me. If you really want that money, then you go and you work the courts and you sue me, and you get in line and you do that. Now, is that ethical? No, it's a terrible practice, but it happens. And it is one of those cases where the thing you should take away from this interview is not, oh, screw DC, they're terrible. You should take away from it of, this is why you need a contract. This is why you have to look out for yourself. This is why, if you just leave things on good faith, you leave things to discretionary bonuses, you're going to wind up unhappy at some point. And also, why it is a fact that a lot of stuff that gets translated into movies and TV shows is going into an incredible gray area of whether you truly are owed the money or not. Now, I met plenty of comic creators, and again, I'm just going to piss some people off, but I met plenty of comic creators who view that if they drew something at one point and a costume that appeared on the screen vaguely resembles what they did, and by the way, I'm not saying that about Alex Ross. Clearly, I mean, you'd have to be a complete idiot not to see the design that he did for Kingdom Come, and Brandon Routh's costume is exactly the same. It is exactly the same. This is not what I'm talking about. But many creators have viewed things that maybe they worked on and many other people worked on and believe they're owed something. And it's not always the case. You're not always going to make money from it. And that's why the other thing, in addition to good contracts that should get straight kind of in your mind, is don't assume that that there's a clean path for you to make tons of money someday off of Hollywood. It is unlikely. I mean, if again, just looking at history, it is far more likely you're never going to see a dime on this stuff than become rich. It's an interesting story. So that's my take on it. I hope you have a chance to go back and listen to the entire interview. Again, Alex Ross on Word Balloon. It's a great show. I'll put a link in the description. You should check that out. There's a lot of other people. I think Ed Brubaker has got some stuff up there. There's some really good stuff. So I heartily recommend it. It's interesting to listen to. But this is this problem of paying. It's not as black and white as big corporation screwed artist. There are details to that. In this case with Alex Ross, he clearly was owed some money. I understand how it got here. I understand when you're living in a world of discretionary bonuses and very fluid payment terms, this is the inevitable result. Doesn't make it right, just totally get how we got here. And hopefully you guys do too. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what you think of this whole situation. Curious to get your opinions, your feelings, your thoughts. Like I said, like, subscribe, all those amazing things to this video. And most importantly, thanks for listening.